Party started. So I'd like to convene this meeting of the San Lorenzo Valley Water District Board of Directors for November 20th, 2025. Leo, would you take roll, please?
President Smalley,
Here.
Vice President Lane,
Here.
Director Russ,
Here.
and Director Foltz is joining us.
Here.
And Director Largay.
Informed me at least that he's going to be about 15 minutes late because he was at another meeting that was concluding late. So, but yep, we have a quorum. We have a quorum. We can proceed. Any members of the public, which I see none in attendance, wishing to address the board. So any changes to the closed session? There are no changes. Okay, all right, and no oral communications that we see, so we can adjourn to the closed session. Jason, what do you, for other staff, what do you guess? How long?
Half hour.
Okay.
Be back for this.
All right. You gonna be warm enough outside?
There's another
Okay.
building she can go.
Oh, okay. She's not stuck out there in the elements. Okay.
Thank you. I get talking on things like that. I have 6:30, so I'd like to convene this meeting of the San Lorenzo Valley Water District Board of Directors for November 20th, 2025. Leah, would you take roll?
President Smalley,
Here.
Vice President Lane,
Here.
Director Folks,
Here.
Director Largay,
Here.
and Director Russ.
Here.
All
Okay.
boards present.
And I'd like to note that Director Largay joined us in the closed session at 5:43.
Thank you.
Okay. So any
Report out on closing.
yes, report out on closed session. I'd like to report that the district has reached tentative agreement on a property purchase for the what are we referring to it in here as on the Erickson property, and the board directed staff and our attorney to begin to prepare paperwork for that, which will be presented at a open session meeting sometime in the next month or so.
A unanimous vote.
Yes, a unanimous vote on that. So with that, we have nothing else to report on the other closed session item. So any changes to the open session agenda items? Okay. Oral communications. Does anybody from the public want to address an item that's not on our open session agenda this evening that's within the purview of the district? Seeing none here and nobody with their hand up online. We will then proceed to the new business. First item is the long service line agreement.
I'll be presenting that. Thank you, President Smalley. So the matter before the board is a long service line agreement. What that is when the district installs the meter in the right of way, and then the customer has to install their service line through an adjacent parcel with an easement. And so in order to get approval for this, we need a resolution approved by the board. This is for a single family home located on Graham Hill Road. The district does not have a main line on Graham Hill Road at this location. We have a main line in Lockwood Lane. So the meter set will be installed in Lockwood Lane, and then the customer will be responsible for installing the water line up to the proposed single family residence. And with that, I can take any questions you have.
Okay, all right. Brian,
I have no questions.
Lena,
I have no question.
Director Russ.
A few questions just for my education. Is there a definition for what long line refers to?
Well, typically it means that the property doesn't front with a district water main. So when we have our water main, there's a couple options here. The person that's building the house could extend our main, which happens sometimes, but it's more costly to do this. And it's a lot cheaper if they can make a deal with the neighboring parcel to just run a smaller diameter 1-inch service line through their neighbor's parcel. You know, if they want to do a main extension, that has to be in the right of way, so in the road. So it's a whole nother ordeal to do that kind of construction.
Okay,
As opposed to just getting an agreement with the parcel next to you. Say, hey, look, I'm going to run a 1-inch line through your, side yard or through your front yard so that I can have water service.
and how long can these 1-inch lines be? I mean,
Very long. It really has to do with, if you have adequate pressure, and then if you don't have adequate pressure, then you need a booster system.
okay. Okay, yeah, and I guess you've answered. I was wondering, doing a main extension, is that like a 6 or 8 inch or something there?
Correct. So the minimum size is 8-inch, and we do allow 6-inch if it serves, I believe, 4 or less houses for our standard specification.
Okay, got it. All right. Um, and, and this is a $17,000 charge for the meters install, and I guess $1,000 deposit for the actual meter, right? Something like that.
Correct. So the $17,629 is the standard fee for getting a 1-inch meter. And so that accounts for buying into the district and all the work that we've done to have the water main close to his parcel that he wants water service to.
And how much time is involved in engineering actually reviewing the engineering documents that he submitted?
So this actual submittal, the person that submitted owns both parcels. And so he actually owns a third parcel, and he was interested in providing water service to all 3 parcels. We met with operations and we discussed a main extension. We met with the builder to discuss a long service line agreement. I would say we probably spent maybe 8 hours in total or less.
So should be well covered by the 17,000.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thanks. Those are my
Okay.
questions.
Okay, Director Foltz, what questions do you have on this item?
No questions. Garrett continues to use, the standard agreement, so that's great.
Okay, Garrett, from the drawing that you provided to us, it looked like it's not one single family home, but it was 2 homes shown on the drawing, separated by as much as 120 feet. And it looked like there were 2 separate 1-inch lines that are shown on the drawing going out to that.
You're correct.
So that not 2 services there?
There'll be 2 services, one for each single family residence. However, the parcel for the first residence is fronting on Lockwood Lane. So technically that parcel, the meter will be set adjacent to the parcel. So they don't need a long service line agreement for the first house.
Okay,
He just needs it for the second house
okay.
where he doesn't have frontage.
So we're putting in 2 lines, 2 meters,
The district will set the 2 meters.
right?
And then the homeowner will be
Puts in the
responsible from
lines.
the meter to the
Okay.
residence.
So 2 meters, 2 times 17,000, whatever.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay,
I mean, typically when we
Right.
put a new meter installation on a parcel that is fronting a district main,
Right.
we don't go to the board for
Right.
any
Okay.
approvals on.
so Director Russ, 8 hours for $34,000.
Right. Even better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that answers my questions on what I was seeing on the drawing then. Okay, I have no other questions on that. Does anybody from the public have a comment on this question? Seeing none, I move that the board adopt the attached resolution for the long line service agreement for APN 061-441-02.
I'll second.
Okay,
President Smalley,
yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
and Director Russ.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. The next item is the employee handbook. And I understand Jen's taking
She's
this.
taking it. Our management analyst.
Okay, yes, so this was something that Lisa had actually created because as we were working on trying to create a couple new personnel or employee policies, we realized we didn't have an employee handbook, which would have been actually a really nice thing to have. And so Lisa was kind enough to create the attachment that we have. She was able to get it down to like less than 100 pages, which was really cool. And I already explained in the memo exactly why we feel it's important and why we did this. So if you guys have any questions or anything that you would want to add or change, now is the time.
All right. Before I go to the rest of the board, I wanted to preface this with, I initially sent Jason and Jen a number of my questions that I had on this. But after reflecting on the questions, I realized I was asking a lot of questions as though I was an employee. And not asking them as a board member, in a protect the district, mode as a board member. So with that, I could reduce the number of questions that I have. So to the rest of the board then, I don't know how extensive and any questions that we might have on this. If questions are lengthy or we have a lot, I want to suggest, but let's see how this goes. Maybe it's send those questions to staff to let them further reflect on this at some point later,
Mhm.
as I hope they could do with some of the questions that I submitted that I'm not going to bring up tonight because I don't think it's worth discussing those in front of the full public. So with that preface, let's get started with staff or board member comments and questions. Lena?
Oh, I just, I'd already sent this to Jason about just, you know, all the other policies that we have coming up. If it was appropriate to kind of roll that all into one employee handbook, so it's all in one spot, so people aren't going trying to find multiple documents, so.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
eventually the idea is to consolidate all this into one employee handbook policy that we can do as a welcome package when we hire new people and bring people on board.
But yeah, this came to the admin and I was looking back at our notes since it was February and I think everything was addressed that we had talked about in there. So yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of other comments besides that.
Okay. Director Russ?
I think I had passed to you, Jason, maybe a dozen or even 20 comments, that I have to agree with Mark that I don't want to bog the whole meeting down, but maybe just a few key ones. I'm assuming that it's a standard part of both existing employees and new employees. They would be required to acknowledge this and sign, okay, that they've read it.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I had noticed in the table of contents, and it doesn't show up, there's two things that there was an error bookmark not defined, like the at-will employment.
Correct.
Is that
That was a language change that needs to be addressed in the index.
okay?
Mhm.
Are employees technically at will?
And it's so this went by the union, and so we worked with the union in refining some of the language.
Uh-huh.
It's technically California is an at-will state, but there are some provisions in the MOUs where if we are letting an employee go, there's a process that has to be followed. So it can't be like, here's your final check, bye. So that language was taken to separation, refer to the MOUs on the process. I mean, we can technically, an employee can leave at any time, but employees are a little more protected because they're part of the union. So we
Okay.
just say refer to the current MOUs regarding separation, and it's detailed out a little bit more in there. And everyone does get a copy of the MOU when they start.
Okay. Got it. All right. Thank you. And then on part-time employment, it in one place it referred that they got pro rata benefits, but is that true for?
They will
Everything?
for the PTO because California is
Okay.
entitled to 5 days of sick,
But not
leave, but not-
healthcare?
not unless they meet the minimum. So
The
generally,
minimums.
it's a 30-hour per
Okay,
week.
all right, because maybe I missed it, but that didn't seem to be spelled out, right?
Okay, yeah, we can definitely
All right,
clarify that for sure.
okay. All right, and there were some other minor comments about anniversary days.
A lot of your
probationary period.
comments are MOU items, and so I think
Mhm.
Jen and I talked about that earlier about just
Okay,
putting that language in there per MOU.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're just gonna add that language throughout.
and a lot of it does say refer to the current MOUs. This is the over thing, but refer to the MOU. So
Okay.
where it says that, a lot of the things are addressed in the MOU.
okay, and so I guess the MOU will just be appended to the
Exactly.
employee handbook then?
Yeah, they always get that. And then I think we're due for an update on the MOUs coming up shortly. That's probably another thing on the agenda with the unions, but yeah.
Right. Okay, all right. Okay, good. Yeah. These others can be, yeah, just addressed separately. Okay, I'm good. I think it's great. Much needed. Yeah, a lot of stuff there. So that's good. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Director Foltz?
Can I clarify something? Due to my travel and work schedule this week, I wasn't able to get a lot of comments in on any of these to staff, though I'd be happy to do so. Are we going to vote on these tonight? Because if we're going to vote on them, then I would like to go through the comments. If we're not going to vote on them, then I can provide more detailed comments offline.
Jason,
I would like to have this voted on so that we can have it in place for the employees and we can obviously, adjust as needed, but I will leave it up to the board as the final decision of.
Okay. Well, I do want to recognize Director Ruff had other comments that you're following through on. I had some similar that I'm not going to discuss. So are those being addressed already?
Yeah,
Okay.
we already talked about like the adding to make sure that on those situations where, something wasn't explicitly spelled out because it was referred to in the memorandum of understanding, that the
Right.
policy would then clarify that per current MOU.
Right.
You know.
Right. Okay. Okay. Director Foltz, why don't you go ahead with your comments then?
Okay, great. I'll skip over those covered already. Next one is on page 28. Suggesting just to make it easier for the employees, that we provide a more direct link to the MOUs rather than just the general web page. I'm scrolling through the document, so I got to get to the comments. Sort of a meta comment here is there seemed to be a fair amount of duplication between this and other policy documents. I'm concerned about at a board and staff level maintaining documents in lockstep with each other. I'd rather just have one document. So I'm suggesting either everything be consolidated into one, or rather than duplicating information in the employee handbook, you refer people off to the relevant policy. Otherwise, we're going to get out of sync as we have gotten out of sync with other documents before.
Understood. The goal is to have this as one policy going forward and implementing those into it.
Yeah, I mean, we might want to talk about that. I'm actually a fan of more granular policies that are topic specific rather than a sort of 100-page document. Right, but that's sort of a general comment I had, is that we haven't managed documents well in the past. I did have some specific questions here as well. There's some things here that I can cover probably separately that aren't as critical at a board level. Is there a specific, but there are some that I think, is there a specific district requirement for using a personal vehicle for business use in terms of insurance coverage and the like? Because insurance coverage can vary widely from your basic liability and minimum dollar amount all the way up to, you can buy as much insurance as you can afford.
That's
Yeah, I'm gonna say that sounds like a legal question that I don't necessarily know the answer to off the top of my head.
that is a good question. And my last job, if someone was regularly driving their vehicle, their own personal vehicle as part of their job, they had some outside salespeople. We did require a minimum level of insurance coverage. But if someone's, like I'm driving, Leah more often still on the clock driving from work here to the board meeting. Incidental like that, we did not require. So that would be, kind of a more of a board decision and something we'd run.
Yeah, I think the reason for me it's a board issue is that clearly the district's deep pocket. So anytime there's an accident involving an employee, the district's likely to get sued anyway. But I'd like to minimize the exposure we have by making sure there's sufficient insurance coverage on personal vehicles.
Yeah.
Makes
I mean, I
sense?
think that's good. Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. There's a statement on page 34 saying that the board establishes a standby rate from time to time. I don't recall that I ever have been involved in one of those. Do we establish a standby rate from time to time?
The standby is usually established through the MOU.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, then perhaps we just make it established by the board through the MOU. The time to time means to me anyway, means there's some separate action the board's taken.
Got it.
Okay, that one I'll cover separately. On salary deductions for union dues, are employees able to opt out of that?
Yes. They have the option if they're part of the general bargaining unit, they have an option to opt in or out of the union at any time.
Okay. And employees would be notified of that as part of their onboarding.
The union reaches out to them. And we do obviously address it with them as well. So
Okay.
So the district addresses that with them.
the district addresses that with them.
Okay.
And yes,
Okay.
absolutely. They know that. And then we make sure the union knows that they're on board and
Yes.
they reach out separately.
Okay.
Is the time off for voting part of the MOU? That's on page 42.
It's California law, which is why it's in this. It's California law, so it's required. And I would have to look at the MOUs to see if it's actually in the MOUs, but it's in here because we have to.
All right,
offer.
so there's nothing that we're in conflict between state law and the MOU, for sure.
No, and if the MOU doesn't address it, state law trumps it, in my opinion.
Just clicking through here. I think that was it of the sort of board-related comments I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Largy?
I guess I just want to say it's fantastic that we are getting an employee handbook. That is awesome. Very important. I have no expertise in employee handbook related matters. My only real question is about legal review and ensuring that people with appropriate knowledge of employment law are fully reviewing it.
All the policies that are coming before the board tonight have been reviewed by legal.
So I have no question. Other than that, thank you.
Okay. The one sort of global comment that I do want to make that I think is appropriate as a board member starts on page 55, where it's the contact with the media. The authorization to make or approve public statements on behalf of the district rests solely with the district secretary. Seems to me like that should be the district manager. And throughout on the next 4 pages under emergency, violence notifications, alcohol info, I see references that the district secretary is going to make this decision. The district secretary is going to make this decision. I think again, those should all be district manager.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, general manager. General manager. Right.
Those had come from old versions as it was incorporated.
What I expect.
And
Yes.
I would probably recommend it go to the.
That's,
Yeah.
yes. So throughout on the next 4 pages, see that, change that to to general manager.
Great.
Okay, all right. And then the one other one that I do wanted to bring up was on page 41, there are position classifications. Do those match actuals that we have?
And the titles,
Yes.
They will be changed.
they will be changed as we have the final approval. I believe the
We
unions
just
just
got,
signed off.
we just got approval from, well, we have the buy-in from the union as far as the title changes go, so.
Okay, so those will
Yeah.
reflect what we're using and what's on our org chart.
Yes,
And
yes,
the union has also reviewed this too.
Consistency
yeah,
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 across.
yeah.
Okay, okay, those are the comments that I have then.
yeah, thank you. Good
Okay.
comments all.
Any comments from the public on this aspect? Well, given that, go ahead.
Do you mind if I had a follow-on question?
Okay.
Okay. Since we're, I guess, going to be voting on it. Where it does describe the annual performance review and that an employee will get the bump up on the anniversary date. And it basically just says a satisfactory review. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be helpful to go into a little bit more detail about what does it mean to get a 5 on your review? What does it mean to get a 4, to get a 3, to get a 1? I guess, I mean, it's not even clear to me that 3 is satisfactory if we haven't
Right.
defined it as
We
satisfactory.
can copy the language that's currently on the review form and put it in here so that they're in sync with each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. That'd be great. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, with that and with those comments from the board, I'm looking to the rest of the board. Are we comfortable then with approving this? Yes. Yes. Okay. Then I'll make the motion. I move that the board adopt the new employee handbook as presented with changes and amendments commented on by board members either through this discussion or through.
When I have
written.
answers to your guys' email, the questions you sent me, so I'll respond to those
Okay. Okay.
directly.
All right.
Second.
Okay. All right. Leah, then would you?
Vice President Smalley.
Yes,
You've been
Sorry.
demoted.
that's okay.
Starting off wrong.
And President Alina.
Yes.
Yes.
Once the meeting. Smalley,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
and Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Okay. Moving on to the retention schedule. So,
Yeah, I'll be presenting that one. All right. So, records retention schedule, this is something that I was asked by Brian Fruce to create because we hadn't had one, or at least we couldn't find any record of it. Since then, we have found we had a retention schedule, but I think it was back in 2008. Just from my experience working in records, I know that that's like very outdated. So we've got a new one here. I put it together. It's been sitting with legal for review. They've done a great job. They've sent it back to us. We've circulated it to the departments asking for feedback. And we've gotten a couple changes there. Otherwise, we're bringing it here, see what you guys think, how you feel about it, and if there's any feedback from the board.
okay,
With that, I'll take any questions.
all right. I'll start with you, Director Russ.
Okay, thank you. I had also sent some comments to Jason on this, and most of them are just my recommendations for changing some of the retention periods and mostly increasing some of them. But I did want to just ask in general, I guess what would be how is this going to be stored? Is it electronically? Is there a relational database? Is it going to be in the cloud, or going to be, a second contingency place where it's stored offsite, or maybe just give me an idea of sort of the big picture of what we're thinking.
Well, it depends on the record. Some of these records, you have to keep them permanent, but you don't have to keep the paper permanent. So once you've scanned it in, you can destroy the paper. Some of them you have to keep the paper forever.
Oh, really?
And so if that's the case, you got to figure out how you're going to store that.
Okay.
If it's electronic, like we're scanning it in, we have an older system called Alchemy, I think it's called.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like an archive system, and there's already a bunch of stuff that's been scanned in there. And for me, kind of hearing what happened with Big Basin and how a lot of their records were gone because they didn't have them saved electronically, started making me think that we need to make sure we have those saved somewhere where it's backed up.
Right.
And so we're not in that same boat. So
Right. I assume that the philosophy is that any paper is also at a minimum stored electronically.
at a minimum nowadays.
Right.
Yeah, but
That's
when
what
you're
I mean.
talking about records from like 1941 or 1964 and they have to be kept forever, you're dealing with that.
Yeah, no, that's true. And then how would a staff person access? I mean, if someone wanted to go back and look at a 1950s document, is that something they can easily search for, or
Scott would be able to give them access.
so Scott's the
He's our IT our
okay.
network
Well,
specialist.
the RailQuest or the Alchemy program is, I don't know how many years it goes, but it only goes back to the current 2000s, something like that, right?
Well, the ordinances and resos and all that in there from the beginning, 1941.
Okay.
So.
And that's a proprietary system. They took the documents off site and scanned them in and then came back with a database on a disk that we loaded onto the server. And then you run an application to access those files.
Can it handle both, I guess, paper scans, but also like audio and video, or is it really meant for
Well,
paper?
we haven't dealt with Alchemy since we did the initial scan.
Oh,
So I
Oh.
don't know if they're still around or not.
oh,
So this was something that was done by previous manager and district secretary, and I just happened to be around when it happened. I know about it.
okay.
And I've accessed the system, so everything is there.
It's
I've been playing around in there. But as far as new stuff that's being scanned in, I've been scanning it directly to the server.
so still using Alchemy?
No, you're just using the regular scanning. The copy machine just uses scanner and save
I
it to the
see.
server directly.
Okay, and I guess I guess what I'm trying to understand is there a strategy for for long-term not only storage but also easy access to get at these documents, so that it's not just Scott who knows how to get at them. That if you needed to access some documents, you would. I mean, for instance, if it were a relational database, you could use SQL to do a search and try to pull that kind of stuff out, and you can. I guess I'm just wondering if there's a sort of in addition to just scanning it or using the old Alchemy system, what's the plan for going forward? Is it just scanning and then Scott?
Yeah. Right now, everything we do is
Okay.
electronic now.
Indexable.
So everything that we have is tracked within our system, and everything's backed up. But as far as your
I imagine
archives,
that we could reach out to see if Alchemy's still around and do something with the
But
data.
let me interject here.
Yeah.
Are we going off topic of records retention and now into database and database search?
Perhaps. Yeah.
So,
I
and I don't doubt that what you're describing would benefit staff, but I think that's separate discussion than our records retention policy,
Yeah.
which is what we
fair point.
should be talking about here.
Right. I guess I just think about records being retained, but then how do you get at them?
Right.
When you need them. but, yeah,
We
okay,
we
so
can talk offline.
that's a different issue. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
Oh, you wanted
That's great.
examples of miscellaneous records?
sure.
So miscellaneous records, in my understanding, would be like, if you come across a file, say it's a project file, and there's like handwritten notes and different things like that in there. Part of that you might have to save, and the handwritten notes you can shred. And they call those miscellaneous notes. You could keep them if you wanted to too, but it's
Gotcha.
just one of those things that you can kind of decipher on your own what it is.
Okay,
If you need
all
to.
right. Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure what that referred to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Director Foltz?
Yeah, this was something that we tried to get done back in 2019, 2020, but never were able to push across the finish line. So I'm really glad to see that it's coming back. But I do have some what I would classify as simplifying thoughts about this. My opinion is we should do a one-time purge of as much paper as possible. Scan in the remaining documents that have to be kept for whatever reason, searchable if possible. And going forward, we just retain everything. My big concern here is that managing this policy is going to be an enormous amount of time. And with today's cloud storage, I mean, I use Box in my business. It's incredibly easy. Everything's searchable as long as you're working with electronic documents to start. And it's just really easy to segment and classify and put who can see what, because not everybody should be able to see everything. So I think this policy is just way too complicated for a going forward situation with today's technology available. And I would really encourage us to dramatically simplify this for staff costs and just records retention. I think one of the objections you might get is having documents available for discovery in the case of lawsuits. I'm less concerned about that perhaps than Barbara will be. That's not been a big issue of ours in the past. And candidly, most of the kinds of situations we get in with lawsuits, the statute of limitations will supersede the retention anyway. So let's just keep things simple, guys, and keep the overhead for staff down to a minimum.
Okay. Director Largay?
I guess I have no expertise in this area, and I don't have strong opinions about it. I think that there are legal best practices for the retention of records, and there's legal best practices for the destruction of records. I would encourage that we adopt those practices. My cursory review of the material suggests that there's been quite a bit of research into what the statutory requirements are, and I know that at organizations where I have worked, old records from long ago turned out to be problematic because of their retention. I recognize what Director Foltz is pointing out, though, in that the maintenance of a record destruction policy is laborious, and what do you do searches by date and look for stuff 7.1 years old and throw it out.
Yeah.
That sounds like a total hassle. So I will defer to others with greater expertise, including staff and council, on how to navigate
Once you get everything cleaned up, it shouldn't be a problem moving forward. Like Bob was saying, then you just save everything. But right now we're running out of storage.
I see.
And
How much is that? What are we at?
Well, it's like
I think she means
literally,
physical storage.
I mean,
No,
physical storage.
Oh,
It's
physical
pouring
storage.
out of every crevice
Oh.
that you can imagine of the building.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Sort of the organization where I currently work, we have banker boxes in storage at Santa Cruz Records Management,
Mhm.
and the stuff has just been sitting there, and we've got a unit, and they promised to not let it burn down or get washed away.
And therein lies the problem. You want to have paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And staff has begun the process of going through and finding what needs to be kept, scanning that in and what can be gotten rid of.
mhm.
It is laborious though.
It is
A lot
very,
of paper.
It's a ton
at
of-
some
ton of
point, that
paper.
might be another discussion for another night. But yeah, we got to start baby steps here.
All right. Lena?
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing the GM interviews, I noticed in one of the offices that it was a bunch of very old paperwork everywhere that was cluttering. So, I could see how you see that it's spilling out everywhere. So getting that under control as far as the physical stuff, I think is key. And then we'll be able to move forward from here easier with our digital records. So as boring as this is, thank you for doing this and making those offices, actual usable spaces and not just, a holding facility for paper. But, yeah, that's all.
Awesome.
I have no further comments beyond what you've heard already from the rest of the board. So I'm good with what you proposed here.
I had a quick question for Scott, if I may. Do you have an estimate on a monthly basis, how many terabytes we would end up with? Just to scan and keep on top of everything. And what does that cost us to carry in the cloud?
Well, I think our disk space it just hovers at a terabyte continuously. We always have a terabyte free. So it's just it grows slowly over time. But our Azure cloud fees are split up amongst all departments. So I don't know what the deal. I do know that when we went to the cloud, we were saving money by not buying a server every 5 years
Mhm.
and the overhead of that. So
Yeah.
there was a little spreadsheet done that showed that, the cost savings over. Because a lot of that, we went to Springbrook, went to the cloud, so we didn't need a server for that. And then Exchange went to the cloud for that, and so it made sense to jump to the cloud for
Okay,
file servers.
all right, thanks.
Okay. So do we have a motion on this?
Public comment.
Oh, yes, thank you for that. Any members of the public wishing to comment?
No, I'm sorry, I did not include them.
Seeing one. Okay, I want to make a motion that the Board of Directors adopt, the resolution, that codifies a records retention schedule authorizing destruction of certain district records in accordance with Government Code Section 6200 of the state of California.
Second.
I know, but that was a recommendation.
And if I could amend that to include the comments that we've made both verbally and in writing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Bob.
So I'm a little bit confused then. So the comments verbally and writing are sort of in conflict. So what is it that how are we amending the document exactly for the purpose of this motion? I don't know what I'm voting on,
So
basically.
what Director Fultz is saying is that Director Russ has made a written comment about increasing the storage duration of certain documents.
Correct.
But Director Fultz is saying that the policy is cumbersome and a burden on staff. So he thinks those two are if I'm saying it right.
Yeah, I mean, unless the intent was all comments but mine.
All comments but yours?
Yeah, I mean, because the addition was that we would add the comments to the document, but it would be all comments except mine.
I guess that implies, Bob, that what you're saying is that you would be voting against this as is.
Absolutely. It's
Okay.
way too cumbersome for a district our size. It's going to cost us a lot of money to manage this going forward.
Okay. Jason, Jen, thoughts on what Director Foltz is?
I mean, by the way, you guys can go ahead with all comments incorporated except mine. That's perfectly fine. That just needs to be explicit in the motion and whatever amendments that Bob was making.
This has been, and I understand what Director Fultz is saying, but this has been vetted by our legal staff as to exactly what we're legally required to keep and what we can get rid of.
Mhm.
And it's very explicit as far as where we fall in that. So I lean on them heavily for this about, you know, we keep this for 5 years, we keep this for 7 years, we keep this for 10 years, and when we can't get rid of things. So yeah, there's a lot in there that says, you know, it's very explicit about what documents can get when you can get rid of them, but that's what the law says. So I'm leaning on them heavily.
Well, excuse me. The law says minimum time. It says nothing about maximum time.
Right.
Right.
You don't
that's what-
you don't have to get rid of documents at the end of 2 years. But you
True.
have to keep them for a minimum of 2 years.
Right. And I think this is what this is saying, is that these are the minimum times. If you're saying that we just keep everything, then that's
Well, what I'm saying is that I get that things are minimums, and for the purposes of a purge, which is what it sounds like Jen wanted to do in order to get physical space recovered, I understand and accept these time periods. But as a matter of policy for the district going forward, in terms of managing its time, I think there's a different approach. I've been using Box for 15 years. I have 2 file cabinets of 2 drawers, basically, that I have paper documents in. Everything else is in the cloud. And I can still go back and search things from 15 years ago and have done so recently because I had to do so as part of a document for our parent company. But to say that we're going to manage ourselves to this document means that we are constantly going to be looking for things that meet like 10 different time periods. I don't even know how you manage that without spending a lot of time and energy and money.
I guess I see this as like something you do every so often, not that we're doing this every day or like, you know.
I look at this as that we're establishing what the minimums are so that we can do the purge. Now, as far as records retention in a cloud basis, you could do that every year, every other year, you know.
Right. And I view this as this gives us the authority to dispose of documents
Correct.
when we so look at things and be able to say, yes, our policy allows us to get rid of this.
Right.
It's not, in my mind, going through on a monthly basis even to go through and see, okay, what can we dispose of this month? But
It doesn't say that you won't, though.
no, that's true. It doesn't say that you won't, but there's a
And-
lot of
and my
policy.
concern is that a policy that says you will do these things, either we say this, either we put something in the resolution that says that this isn't a hard and fast, at the end of 2 years, we're going to destroy this document,
Mhm.
which could easily be interpreted by anybody in the public to that extent. Or we say something that this is to support a general purge, and going forward, this is a guideline, not a strict policy.
I'm fine with that. To say that to support the initial purge of documents that these, you know, these are the minimums, but going forward, this is the guideline by which we must follow these minimums. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Well, I said it a little bit differently, is guidelines, not requirements. right? That is, we're not required to destroy documents at the end of each of these periods that are in here, and
The
there's
whole
lots
point
of.
of a retention schedule is like you come across a document, say it's a budget document from 1992. What can I do with it? You look at your retention schedule, it says I can destroy it, or no, I gotta keep it forever. But at least we know, because at one point you were just keeping everything forever. You can't,
We're-
that's not a good one either.
we're,
I can't wordsmith in real time, I'm sorry.
and that's where I was, we're debating
Barbara wants to say
language
something.
that should be in
The resolution.
motion and the resolution. And we don't have
Right.
one of those two in front of us this evening. So I want to recommend that staff take this one back because I don't see that this is critical to us approving this tonight. We could do this at the next meeting and come back with the resolution and the motion or recommended motion in the memo that allows us to capture the comments that you're hearing tonight and the language that you're hearing so that we can all see it written.
Barbara was trying to speak.
Okay, all right, thanks. Barbara?
Well, yeah, the reso just says that the records are, as outlined in the schedule
Mhm.
are authorized to be destroyed. It
Right.
doesn't say that you have to,
I
right? And so, but we can certainly play with the language of the reso to make it clear that this is simply your legal guidelines on your minimum
Yeah.
retention of and what needs to be permanent, what can be in the cloud, what has to be on paper, etc. So
Yeah.
But I'm happy to play with or you guys can play with the language in the reso and bring it
yes.
back.
I think staff could
Yeah,
modify it.
we'll modify it. We'll give it to you for review and then we'll bring it back.
We do have a
Yeah.
motion, a second on the table still, though.
I want to withdraw that. I want to withdraw that motion. Given the further discussion that we've had on the item. Okay. Moving on then to the new personnel policies. Jen again.
Okay. Okay, so in reviewing the personnel policies and procedures, we realized we had a few that I felt like, and so did John Kunkel at the time, that we might need, which was a vehicle use policy and an insubordination policy. And then Jason and I also worked on the remote work or the flexible work schedule policy. I've given you guys a little bit of a synopsis of each one. You also have all of the drafts here attached with some extra acknowledgement forms and stuff that go along with them. So with that, I'll open it up to you with any questions.
Okay. We'll start with you, Director Foltz.
Okay, again, I have to scroll through these. So again, just from the first one on page 110 on the use of district vehicles and mobile equipment, it seemed like there might be some harmonization between this and the handbook that was passed earlier. So it kind of relates to what I was talking about earlier. My concern is these are not going to necessarily be in sync. On page 111, there's a vehicular routes and use restrictions. Item number 3 says at the conclusion of the assigned work, employees shall report back to headquarters via the most direct route unless instructed by the supervisor to do otherwise. Is that really what we want? Especially given traffic in the valley?
I guess that'd be your interpretation of direct route. Direct route for me is the quickest method to get back to the shop.
Well, but do we really need people to come back to a central location at the conclusion of work? Do they get dispatched somewhere? The word shall is the issue for me. Can we change that to may? Because I just, prior to the pandemic, we had a lot of people coming to central locations, holding meetings, et cetera, that weren't necessarily the most productive use of time, given how long it takes to get from one end of the valley to the other. This seems like we're going back to that.
We can change it to May. That's fine.
On the remote work, on page 120, it seemed like we had a inconsistency between the equipment and data and the acknowledgement and whether or not someone could actually use personal gear or not. My preference is absolutely no personal gear used at all. But the acknowledgement indicates that that might in fact be permissible.
If it says that, then it's an error. From a cybersecurity standpoint, you don't want people using their own computers and gear, as you said.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, that would need to be harmonized as well. Just for my own education, it says here further down in terms of, communicating, are we using VoIP and Teams chat for communications?
Yes.
Okay. On page 123, the meeting expectations, are these expectations required? Excuse me, let me rephrase that. Are all meetings conducted with video on?
It hasn't been required, but usually they have their video on.
Okay. I get the dress code then requirement with video on. On page 124, it says employees are prohibited from performing work in locations like, coffee shop, what have you, that does not offer a secure connections. Aren't all our connections over HTTPS or VPN?
Yes.
Is that prohibition still required then?
All of the laptops that are remote use a VPN connection back to authenticate back to the operations.
Okay, so if someone happens to be at a coffee shop and they want to fire up the computer, is that really a problem?
Only for whatever's on their computer, not for the connection itself. Yeah. It's just good practice to do it on a secure network. And I understand that the VPN over the coffee shop Wi-Fi is
secure,
but it's just good practice to not do it that way.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll deal with the rest of them later. Those were the big ones. Thank you.
Okay. Director Largay?
I have no opinion about any of these matters. I think this is the role of the general manager to figure out how to manage staff, and and my recommendation to the general manager and to the directors is that we provide suggestions or advice from our experience, but frankly, all of these decisions should be made by the general manager because they're governing the behavior of staff. Just for example, if for whatever reason it's important to have staff report back to headquarters at the end of the workday to verify that they're finishing their workday at the appropriate time, in my opinion, that's the discretion of the general manager. And if a shall in the policy is the way to ensure that that's the standard of expectation, then that's the word that should be in the document. And I think this is just an area where I strongly feel that the role of the directors is to provide advice, but not approval, frankly.
Okay. All right. Rick, Wayne?
Yeah, we had brought the work from home policy to the admin committee, and I was really happy to see that we had that because I think it really makes us more competitive in the workplace. One suggestion that that was brought up there that I don't see that came over was just being able to track your time when you're in office and working from home. I think that's maybe appropriate as we go for like review status and making sure that, you know, people are getting their work done in a timely manner and kind of seeing that time split if necessary. So that's it.
And I played around with our current payroll system to see if we were able to do that, and we are, so. That's
Okay.
a way for somebody to log in and track their time.
Yeah.
from home.
Yeah, I just a little accountability. So
Yeah.
that's all I have.
Okay, Director Russ.
Thank you. Just I guess a couple, just for my education and reference. On the remote work part, how many employees right now potentially qualify under that?
So like 10,
Yeah, it'd probably be mostly management and administration staff, obviously not the field guys or
or customer service.
customer service.
Okay.
Well, customer service could work remotely because the phones are IP phones. So
They could answer phones remotely, but they wouldn't be able to take very many payments.
Mhm.
But yeah, not the door, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then is there an expectation of, I mean, I don't know, for instance, what is the current situation? How many people are remote? How many hours per week? Is there, are there limits or, you know, what's kind of the optimal?
Very few have asked to work remotely, and it's on an as needed basis situationally.
Okay. Okay, so it's
It
not,
isn't like somebody's doing it multiple days a week or anything like that.
okay. And I did wonder, you know, if someone is working remotely, back to some of the questions that were asked earlier about whose equipment are they using? And
It'll be district equipment.
it would be district equipment. I was just wondering if what would the cost of that be if we're actually providing for someone to work remotely, you know, a day a week?
Most
or
of the
something?
staff that's working remotely already has a laptop, so.
Oh, I see. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
district laptop,
Yeah.
so they're
Yeah.
just bringing
Yeah.
it.
And so if we had to buy a new laptop or, you know, maybe around $2,000, you know, 1,500, 2,000.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I was
I see a
wondering
lot of laptops here.
about the desk and
Just
stuff
bring
like
mine,
that
I have
too. Like, I think there was some question on
I had
whether
a question.
the desks, we should purchase a desk or a chair or ergonomics.
It is, yeah, and that was brought up about in that. So in order for somebody to work remotely, they have to have an ergonomic situation at their house,
At their
right?
house.
And
Mhm.
so if they're requesting it, I think it falls on the employee to make sure that's complying with law. If it's at the behest of something like COVID happens again, then it's up to the district to supply it.
Yeah, I have heard of bizarre situations where a remote employee then gets workers' comp for not having an ergonomic situation and getting carpal tunnel or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Therein
I'll avoid
lies
that.
why we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and then and I guess all of these are subject to the general manager's approval and changes and stuff. It's not like we're necessarily agreeing that employee X can have so many days
Yeah,
a
a
week
lot,
flex.
and we can add it. A lot of the policies that we had at my previous employment always said at general manager's discretion. So that language could always be added to this.
Yeah, and okay, because I didn't see it, but I assumed it. Okay, thank you. That's it for my questions.
Okay. I think I have two questions. On page 116, of the agenda packet, where it talks about insubordination and the need for manager to promptly report the incident in writing to HR. But I don't see anything else in the rest of this policy about the individual who has been insubordinate being informed by the manager or the supervisor.
Yeah,
Is that here or
it's
did I miss
not there, and I think there needs to be another, after reading your question, there needs to be another paragraph added that while human resources need to be contacted first, so that we can have that situation vetted and come up with a game plan of how to address the situation.
Mhm.
There does need to be follow-up with the employee after that.
Right. Something I think to the effect of if HR finds that supervisor or manager comments are valid.
Yeah.
Then HR and manager supervisor meet with the individual
Or
to
take appropriate action with the individual.
exactly to take
I think that's-
appropriate action.
Yeah.
So that it's both HR and manager
Agreed.
jointly meeting with. Okay.
Yeah, I think first step would be the HR to make sure that actually is a valid.
Yeah, or is
situation.
what the manager's saying, no, you're way over the line here in
Exactly.
what you think is insubordination, that's not. Yeah, because some managers, supervisors are new to their roles and might think that okay, so getting HR linked into that. And then the other one is something that we were alluding to 3 minutes ago, and it's about equipment. It's on page 123 with all of the equipment that we're providing. And are we really signing ourselves up to provide desks and ergonomic chairs and workstations?
Like I said, only if it's mandated by the district that they
Okay.
can work remotely.
Okay, then I think if that caveat
Okay.
was put into that, if district mandates this for some reason, such as COVID or otherwise, or lack of space, whatever, if district mandates, then yeah. If we get too crowded,
And we'll also add another situation in there that if the employee is requesting it, that they must comply with
Yes.
ergonomic law.
agree. Okay. Those are the only comments that I have on this then. Let me go out to public first, and I'll come back to Director Foltz. Anybody from the public want to comment on this? Seeing none. Director Foltz?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on what Brian was saying, which I think is a really key question. Do we need to act as a board to adopt these policies at all?
Yes, because policy falls under the jurisdiction of the board itself, you do need to adopt the policy. There are legal requirements in the policy themselves. So you're the governing body, you need to adopt the policy. Now, the making the policy come into action, that's my job, but you as the board have to adopt them.
Well, let me follow up on that a little bit. If there are specific legal requirements, should the policy really just address those legal requirements and leave the day-to-day implementation out of the policy as being something that would then be part of a handbook or management workbook or something like that? That is narrow the scope of what it is we're actually acting upon. With respect to policies, my main concerns are around our employees being treated fairly. Are we getting the maximum bang for our buck productivity wise? Are we violating laws in any way? That sort of thing. But it's not to necessarily address how you manage or how your managers manage things on a day-to-day basis. So there's a lot in here that deals with day-to-day stuff. Can we just remove that and focus on our legal requirements only?
You can. Normally when things aren't spelled out, they become.
Well, again, they would be spelled out, but in a different document that would be your management guidelines. When I join companies, typically my boss hands me, hey, this is how I manage. And so I'm trying to address what Brian was saying, which is we don't need to get involved in a lot of the stuff that's in this document. Barbara has her hands up too, by the way.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Okay. Barbara?
I would just add that the MOU is going to dictate some of this as well. And so I would echo Bob's comment earlier that you're getting into now you've got an employee handbook, an MOU. I'm reading this as this is going to be part of the employee handbook, right? That you're looking to the board to
Yes.
accept the policy and then integrate it into the handbook.
Correct.
But I would say the legal requirements on the day-to-day for your employees is generally going to be your MOU. Adoption of a policy, though, is up to the board. I mean, you set the rules of the game, and then your employees, your manager, etc., implement those rules. So your policies are part of the rule of the game, just like a regulation.
But
So
Barbara, that kind of begs the question though, because if we do that and we're adopting everything that's in this policy, it means the board is actually adopting a lot of day-to-day management stuff here. And I think
Well-
Brian's got a good point. That isn't necessarily our job.
no, but you are setting the parameters of the employee relationship.
Well, but I mean, if you read some of the things in here in this policy, particularly in the vehicle one, I think might be pretty straightforward, but
Mhm.
you know, a lot of these here, like remote work or flexible schedule program policy, I think there's so much in here that could just be pulled out of the policy relative to what the board should be voting on,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
maybe the insubordination one, I think there's some things that could probably be pulled out of there. We could refer to a policy, but it just seems to me we're voting on way too much.
Yeah. We can certainly take a closer look at that. For me, when you start getting into this fair labor, etc., I'm gonna always kick to my labor people, right? To me, I'm like this is insubordination is something that should be in the MOU.
Correct.
That's my reaction to this, but to that particular one, I think as far as use of a vehicle, that's something that the board should be considering. Because as you indicated earlier, your insurance policies need to be, I don't know what your insurance policies cover. It's not, I'm not the insurance agent, right? And so your policies on vehicle use should be reflecting accurately what you're going to want covered in your insurance policy. Right. And I think that you're going to spend money on your insurance policy. So do you want to spend more money to allow an employee to use your vehicle more?
Well, yeah, again, you're right about that, but then I go down to section, D here on page 111. That's nothing the board should be dealing with.
Let me get there.
And number 10, I mean, I agree with the notion of first motion forward, but that's not, board shouldn't be dealing with that.
Oh, I see what you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brian has a really good point here.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask the question then of our general manager. Jason?
Yes.
Given the comments that you're hearing now, from board, from our council, do you still want to, have this, issued to you from the board as policy, or take this back and just incorporate it into?
I'll work with Barbara. There are things in here that I understand what everybody's saying as far as that fall within my discretion, and I completely agree. However, there are things in here that need to be, if somebody does something, I have the teeth in which that they violated something. So we'll have to have some semblance of,
I agree. Some should come back to the board. I think the insubordination policy in particular to give you the ability to say, no, this is, but I don't want to use that as the only example. There may be other things here. So
I'll
your
work with
your
legal
opinion
on
is
that.
take this back. We're not gonna make a motion on that this evening.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and part of that, I would suggest that we just, look at that in a broader umbrella, not specific to these employee issues. If you want to look at it from just adopting policies in general, what's the board's role versus the manager's role?
Yeah.
Okey dokey.
Okay. All right. Moving on then to the local agency investment fund signatories. Cherie?
So this is a resolution that will update the district's authorized signatories for the local agency investment fund, or LAIF. The most recent resolution was adopted in March of 22. Obviously, staff has changed since then. So we do need to have LAIF requires to have a resolution that spells out our signatories. So this resolution would designate Jason and myself as the signatories for our LAIF account. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Okay. All right. Brian?
The finance committee looked at this. I support it. I have no questions.
Okay. Alina?
No questions.
Okay. Director Russ?
No questions. All for it.
Okay. Director Foltz?
Necessary and no questions. Thank you, Sherry.
Okay. All right. I concur. Anybody from the public want to ask a question about this before we make the motion? Seeing none. I move that the board adopt the resolution designating General Manager Jason Lillian and Finance Manager Cherie Fries as authorized signatures for the local agency investment fund transactions effective immediately and continued until amended by future board action.
Seconded.
President Smalley,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
and Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion has passed. Resolution will be adopted.
Next is the treasurer appointment.
So this resolution would adopt a district treasurer. California Water Code does require that the board of directors designate a treasurer. Typically, this is done when the review of the investment policy is done. However, I was not on board yet when the investment policy was passed back in July. So yeah, this would just satisfy that requirement, and it would be in effect until the next time we would review the investment policy, which will typically be in July.
Okay. All right. Comments from the board, Alina?
No.
Director Russ?
No, we discussed this at the budget and finance and makes total sense.
Okay. Director Foltz?
Again, necessary and no questions. Thank you, Sherry.
Okay. Brian?
Nothing. Thanks.
Okay. None from me either. Any from the public? Seeing none. I move that the board adopt a resolution appointing finance manager Cherie Fries as treasurer of the San Lorenzo Valley Water District, effective immediately and continuing until the next review and adoption of the district's investment policy.
Second.
Okay. Leah?
President Smalley,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion has passed and resolution will be adopted.
Okay. Last one on the New business is the urban water management plan.
So at the October 2nd regular board meeting, I polled the board to see if there was interest in pursuing a combined urban water management plan with Scotts Valley Water District, similar to what was done in 2020. The board asked that San Lorenzo Valley be the lead agency on the project. And after discussion of this, along with other facets, Scotts Valley was determined that both agencies would do their own urban water management plan. So tonight I'm requesting that you authorize me to release request for proposals for the 2025 urban water management plan update. This is required by California Water Code sections 10.610 through 10.656 for any supplier serving more than 3,000 customers. Our updated plan must be submitted to the Department of Water Resources by July 1st, 2026. And so beginning the consultant selection process now is essential to meeting that deadline. The urban water management plan is meant to be more than a compliance document. It's meant to be one of our most important long-term planning tools. It needs to provide demand forecast through 2045. That includes demands from new California housing regulations such as accessory dwelling units, evaluation of surface and groundwater supplies, a fully updated water shortage contingency plan, and drought risk and reliability analysis. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, all right. Director Fultz, why don't we start with you on this one?
Well, I guess my first question is board approval for you, excuse me, for you to issue an RFP required? I mean, one of the things that we had talked about in the engineering committee was whether or not, either the committee or the board was adding any significant value to this kind of process document, which, by the way, is very critical in terms of getting things done. But I kind of raised that question in general.
It's a fair question, but as I brought it before you on October 2nd, I wanted to bring it back before you again to let you know the status of it before he issued RFPs.
Okay, well, this could be then just an informational item. We don't necessarily have to take action on it.
I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a comment just, I'm glad that we're including 40% on the fee. I tend to raise that to 50 or 60 just because, I'm focused on money. But outside of that, I don't know that I have any particular expertise here other than historically the urban water management plan is something that's been required, but it's not really something that we've used that affects strategic or long-term planning because we're a relatively static entity in terms of water use and the like. But yeah, I don't know that we need to take any action on it tonight, Mark. I think that can go basically back to the general manager for him to move through the organization.
Okay, I understand your viewpoint on that. And I had asked Jason the same question earlier this week during my weekly meeting with him, but he provided rationale as to why he was bringing this in front of the board. And I do have some specific questions about how the RFP is written, but I'll go through those when I circle through the rest of the board for any comments on this. Director Russ?
I don't remember what did when we shared this with Scotts Valley 5 years ago, what was the total cost? Do you know what that was?
There were two proposals given. One was around 120,000 and the other one was about 42,000. And they chose the $120,000 one. The rationale given at the time, I believe, was that they felt the $42,000 one was vague in the scope and lacked understanding of the valley.
And I do appreciate that that the scope does include, certainly the housing element pushed by the state, and I forget the number of housing elements that are, or new housing units that the county itself is supposed to grow by, but I thought it was like approaching 10,000. I mean, it is actually a lot. It's not just it may be static, but my guess is that we're going to see a lot of push over the next 5, certainly 10 years for more units, ADUs, et cetera. So I'm glad to hear that that would be included. Let's see. Yeah. No, and I think that this document sounds like it is a very important document, and I think you had said that it would include disasters in addition to just drought. I mean,
It touches on a cursory level. It doesn't delve into it, but it kind of gives a ranking of likelihood of disaster. But you
Okay.
should have other disaster plans in place for if they do happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Director Larky?
I am glad we're putting this out to competitive bid. I hope it comes in cheap. I think that a lot's changed since the last plan, obviously with the fire, but very little has changed in terms of overall connections, geology, water supply, future connections. It's a pretty slow growth thing. I think an effective consultant could extract material from the old plan and largely recycle it. So I'm glad that it's a competitive bid. I'm glad that that there is not an anticipated fee. Sometimes in these things, there's you give them a budget and tell them to hit that or less. I'm glad we're not doing that.
They usually hit that.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's a good call, and hopefully Montgomery and Associates or someone who has this thing on still in a Word document can just come and polish
Plug
it
and
off.
play.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay. Director Lang?
Yeah, I'm excited to get these documents updated for us, especially with the lack of a strategic plan that will at least have this one updated. I did note one typo. You're now district secretary, Leah, so it says you are administrative assistant. But that's it.
Okay. The comments that I have are related to on page 142, the deliverables and the project schedule. I didn't see a parallel between the two that were there with 3 items listed in deliverables. The draft, a public draft, a final draft, and then only 2 in the schedule. So making those parallel so that there was schedule and deliverables matching up. And then also on the proposal due dates, I think you could pull that January date back earlier.
We're going to send it out modified. Proposals due January 7th.
Good.
And then we'll hopefully award the contract at that January 15th board meeting.
Okay. Allowing the consultant more time to do the work on the document rather than do the work on the proposal.
We'll need 2 more days or so.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Given that, any comments from the public on this? Seeing none, Director Foltz?
Yeah, real quick, if we are serious about addressing an ADU situation, of which I'm extremely skeptical given our terrain, geology, all the rest of it, we ought to be looking at actual feasibility of that on the various lots that are around. A lot of our parcels in our valley are simply not able to support a second dwelling.
Yeah.
And even for those that are, which includes my area, the county has determined in a lot of cases that you can't add anything. due to some underlying hazard or what have you. So I'm not sure that's really a place we want to spend a lot of time and energy on. But if we are going to include it, we ought to not just be pulling numbers out that the county wants us to do, but actually look at what's feasible given our current situation.
Understood.
And I have to agree with Director Foltz, having gone through the building department recently to put
Huh.
a model onto our house. The process to do an ADU is so onerous that I don't think 90% of properties would be able to qualify here for that. So, okay, Jason, let me ask you that, given Director Foltz's comment about does this even need a motion from us?
You don't necessarily need one, but
If you feel more comfortable with that,
if the consensus is to go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna.
Yeah, the consensus that I hear from all of the rest of the board members is to go do this.
Okay.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll do.
We will go with that. So that was the last on the new business, consent agenda, board meeting minutes. Does anybody wish to comment on those? If not, we will consider those approved. District reports, the finance status report. Does anybody on the board want to ask questions about that? Director Foltz.
Yeah, just one really quickly. I'll address the accounts receivable question separately with Jason. And that has to do with on the first page, we talk about restricted versus unrestricted funds. I get that the unrestricted funds from a legal point of view are unrestricted, but I believe we've recently updated the reserve policy, and I would strongly recommend that we start including that out of that unrestricted, there's actually X number of millions of dollars that the board has restricted by policy to be used in emergency situations and not sort of for general use at any time.
We can add that.
Okay.
And to have that number in there. Other than that, thanks.
Okay. All right. No other written communication or information with that. I think
there are technically accounts payable in here, so you should make a motion to approve.
I didn't.
And I had submitted a number of I guess questions which we don't need to go through here, but maybe.
Would you like to answer them?
Yeah, maybe I can
Outline.
get together with Sherry and Jason if you like, and just a lot of questions about a lot of different issues. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that would be great. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
right.
Well, I'm confused. I'm looking at the
Point of order.
just a minute, Bob. Lisa was saying a motion, and I'm looking at the memo and it says no
Nope.
motion required for information only. Okay. So
Can I offer something though on the respect to bill pay? So at one point in time in the far distant past, prior to the conflict of interest lawsuit, the board did approve the bills as a routine measure, but stopped doing that when the lawsuit happened due to discovery issues and the like. If we want to bring that back, that is something the board should decide.
okay. I will leave that with Jason and our finance manager.
And probably Barbara, relative to any
Yeah.
legal requirements.
So take a look at that, Jason.
Okay.
Okay. Well, with that then, I think we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you, folks.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.